we were in the kitchen at like 6 a.m. and sometimes didn't leave until seriously 1 a.m. in the morning and be back there again the next morning doing the same thing. Literally running on like 4 hours sleep.
No one's going to work you harder than those kitchens, and it's not just the physical aspect of it, it's the mental aspect to keep going constantly and just keep thriving at that area is tough.
I remember the first, like that second or third Saturday breakfast service, and I was cooking then. I'm in the kitchen, I'm on the pass, and just going, shit, we're getting busier. And then like not looking up, like, because you just focused on the pass and focused on the checks.
It's an open kitchen, right?
Yeah, fully open. And then at one point I looked up and there was a crowd of people at the front door. And I was like, oh my God. There must have been like 30 or 40 people waiting in line.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP Podcast. And on the show today, I'm extremely excited to have the founder and managing director of EATX, Tom Arnel. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
So before we get on to all the chefy stuff and the restaurant stuff and all of that kind of stuff that is really important, and that's why we have you here, what I want to know first, you're from Melbourne, Australia, which is one of the meccas of the world for food. What was one of your first ever childhood food memories?
Oh, geez, you've started off with the big questions. Oh, wow. That's a really good question. You know what? It's funny. I was actually quite a picky eater when I was a kid, and I was not in the food space much at all. And one of my first memories was probably really watching Jamie Oliver cook and being quite inspired by what he was doing. I think the charisma and, the way he presented food and how colorful he made it and just looked delicious, So that was my first sort of real aha moment that, wow, I think I like that.
And then when did you start to have your sort of foray into experimenting, cooking, tasting, all of that kind of stuff?
I guess my grandmother and my mother were great cooks, but I started by becoming a pot washer. And I was doing that through high school. And I was watching the chefs as I was doing that in pubs and restaurants around my city to get some pocket money, And I knew that it was interesting. I was pretty good at maths and economics. And I was also quite creative as well. So I was doing graphic design and art. And I realized that, cooking was a bit of a mix of all of those things. So that was probably what got me into it. And that was, it inspired me to sort of actually give it a go,
So then, after doing all the pot washing, craziness of the kitchen, all of that kind of stuff, getting some money, when was the real sort of first time into a pro kitchen?
Pro kitchen. Yeah, so I was the first apprentice chef at a restaurant called Vue de Monde in Melbourne. And that was, at the time, the number one restaurant in Australia. It was 3 hats, so it's like our, like a Michelin star, but in Australia we have hats. 3-hat restaurant, best in Australia, top 70 in the world at that time in the San Pellegrino award list.
Huge restaurant.
Yeah. So it was Shannon Bennett was the owner and executive chef. And I went up there one day into Melbourne, which is where the restaurant is, and knocked on the back door and pestered them and got a job after about a week. And that was my first stint in a fine dining restaurant.
So how old were you at that time?
I would have been 19. Yeah,
and it was fresh, first time in a proper kitchen.
I was actually working in a pub. So after I became a pot washer, I was, I became an apprentice chef after that.
Right.
And then, so I ditched university. I was going to go to university. I ditched that, and just thought, I'm going to give the cooking thing a go, and I wanted to have a good go at it. So Vue de Monde was the place that I knew I had to be at to do anything special. So.
Right. So then, tell me about the time there. So specifically, the first sort of 6 months, Vue de Monde, and as you said, out of the list of the San Pellegrino at that time, Shannon Bennett was he was in the scene globally. I'm not just talking about Australia.
Yeah.
Vue de Monde was seen as one of the top, best restaurants in the world. How was it in that kitchen at that time?
Terrifying. Oh man, it gives me shivers even thinking about it now. It was the hardest I ever physically worked. And the hours were insane. But it was just it was one of those kitchens where you felt like you were doing something special, and everything that all of us were doing in that brigade was sort of, contributing to this cause of being the best restaurant in the country. And I was at the bottom of the food chain as the apprentice and got treated like shit.
Okay.
And that was really, really tough. And that for sure, those experiences set the building blocks for me today.
Right.
And without that, there is no way I think I'd be resilient enough to do what I do today. I really believe that. That's a funny point.
So with the way that the kitchen worked at that specific time, how many in the brigade?
I think there would have been about 30 or 35 for a 90-seat, maybe 85-seat plus a private dining room. And it was just booked out for 3 months in advance. And everybody was on 5, 7, or 9 or 12 course degustations.
Wow.
So
everyone.
You had to be. At dinner time, you had to be. Yeah. And so there was probably like 120, 130 dishes on at any one time, because it was sectioned off into 4 different zones. Out of those 4 zones, nobody in that same zone could eat the same food as the table next to them.
Oh my God.
So it was a nightmare.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how was it ran, as in like, was it lunch and dinner?
It was lunch and dinner, but dinner we tried to push people onto a du jour menu, which is like a fast menu rapide or a business lunch. But you'd get a few tables that come in and just, no, I want the degustation menu, and I want the gourmand menu, which is 12, 13 courses. And so to prep for that, we were in the kitchen at like 6 a.m. and sometimes didn't leave until seriously 1 a.m. in the morning, and be back there again the next morning doing the same thing, literally running on like 4 hours sleep. And we did that. Like, there's a guy named, I don't want to digress too much, but there's a guy named Matty Abe, who is Gordon Ramsay's.
I know him. I worked with him at Claridge's.
Yeah. So
yeah,
Matty is a great friend of mine, and so he's the chef de cuisine and now patron at restaurant Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, and
that guy was the hardest working chef I've ever seen in my life, and he would always be there first with the key, opening the kitchen at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow!
You should try and get him on and ask him what it would be like, or what it was like back then, and I'm sure he would tell you the same thing.
Wow!
Yeah.
So then, when it came to Shannon Bennett himself, was he always in the kitchen?
He was, yeah. He'd be there for service. He did that. He would come and prep sometimes with the boys, but mostly it would be service. Yeah, service at dinner time. Yeah.
And so let's say service would be for 3 to 4 hours at a time.
Yeah.
On the sections that you worked on, how was the pressure then?
I was there. I was in that restaurant for probably 3.5 years, and went from apprentice chef to sous chef when I left, and worked every single section. Did my time on each one, and it was really intense. Mostly out of the sauce or the meat prep. That was the most intense, because it was the most laborious and time taking to get dishes right, and stocks and garnishes and stuff. It was pretty hectic. Wow.
So then you worked your way up quite well to go from apprentice right through to the sous.
Yeah. I was good at it. I know I'm not really much of a chef. I don't cook anymore. In my restaurants much. I probably got so busy in the last couple of years that I just haven't had the chance. I've got other great people with me that do that, but it was amazing. So,
do you miss it?
Absolutely, I really do. If I could transport myself back in time to go and experience it again, I probably would. I would love it.
So look, that set you up for what you're doing now. But what I would be interested in is after that time, which is quite relentless and quite full on. Where did you go after that? So after that, I'd sort of had enough. I did 3.5 years and told Shannon that I needed a break. Yeah.
Because my body would not take anymore. I was so skinny and, probably in the pub too much after work and, smoking like everybody did. And, it's no way to live. It's not a lifestyle. But I knew that I was doing something special, which is what kept me there in the long run. But after that, I quit, got out of there, took a month or so off, and then Shannon, he got me an opportunity to go to, actually, it was the Fat Duck. He got me an opportunity to go on stage at the Fat Duck. And I was like, yeah, that's fantastic. I'd love to go and work at the Fat Duck. He goes, it's no pay though. Like, so you're gonna have to go there and do a stage, and it's gonna be no pay.
For how long?
I think it was like 2 or 3 months until you sort of go in there and prove yourself. And then he's like, but after that, I'm sure they'll bump you up and you'll get a salary and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of guys there doing stages, so great. Anyway, long story short, that was going to take a while. So that was the opportunity was like going to take 6 months. So I had some time in between. So there was an opportunity then to go to Singapore to open a restaurant for him that he was consulting for.
Right.
So I took that in the build up to the Fat Duck, thinking that that's going to come. And I stayed in Singapore for about 6 months and absolutely loved it.
Okay.
It's one of the times of my life, actually. That city's just so much fun. Food scene's incredible, and the lifestyle there is great. So tried that for 6 months, and then the Fat Duck thing came around, but Artzac came up, and I had to choose between Fat Duck and Artzac.
Wow.
So I don't know what happened, but I something inside me just said I could probably always go to London, and London was sort of on my card, on my radar anyway. So I chose Artzac.
Wow. So to put it into context, you had Heston 3-star, and then Arzac also 3-star, but San Sebastian.
Yeah.
So what did you decide?
I chose Artzac. Juan Marie and Helena Artzac, invited me over, and I did a stage with them for 3 months.
Amazing.
It was pretty cool. I was the only guy in the kitchen that couldn't speak Spanish. But I figured it out though. I figured out like the key words on the checks, and I was doing service by the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was.
So what do they call you, El Gringo?
Oh man, whatever they would call me everything. I had no idea. So. But yeah, that was a pretty cool time.
So interestingly, how was Arzac's kitchen ran compared to Vue de Monde with Shannon?
Sort of a little bit the same in terms of the chaos, but oh my god, it was not what I was used to. The hygiene standards were not the same; they were much lower.
Right.
Which was a shock to me.
Okay.
And I'll tell you some other stories, offline later about that. But yeah, that was it. There was some stuff there that sort of made me feel like that wasn't the place for me as well. It wasn't. I enjoyed my time there, but I wouldn't have gone back or stayed there.
And how long did you stay there for?
I stayed there for 3 months.
Okay.
Until my time was up there.
And were you working the whole time, or did you manage to explore San Sebastian a little bit more?
That was the thing. I've got regrets about that. I worked my ass off.
Okay.
And barely traveled. I went to France a couple of times here and there, just on if I got a day off.
Sure.
So yeah, that was that.
Wow. So 3 months at a 3-star.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then after that, again, like what am I going to do? So I got an opportunity again from Shannon. I called him up and said, hey, what do you reckon? He's like, well, yeah, if you can go to the Fat Duck. I was like, yeah, but I just don't know if I'm ready to go do that again. Because I'm like, if I go there, I'm going to go straight down the bottom. I'm going to be doing all the crappy jobs.
Right.
Sitting there for hours.
And you've already been an apprentice.
Yeah. So I'd already, felt that. So I was sort of interested in something else. And then I got the opportunity to go to Oman because Shannon was opening a restaurant in Oman. That was my first sort of stint towards the Middle East. So he opened a restaurant in 2008 called Vue by Shannon Bennett. So I went there to open that.
Wow.
Which was great and turned out to be the best thing I ever did in my life because I met my wife there. So met my wife
and she was in Muscat?
She was in Muscat, yeah. She was working at the El Bustan Palace Hotel, it was called back then. And that was where the restaurant was. We met and we're still together now and 4 children later.
Oh, congratulations, that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
But how was, so then, okay, so let me get this straight. So you got Melbourne, which is a happening, incredible city. Mm-hmm. Singapore, another amazing happening city. Yeah. Then you go to San Sebastian, which is like the mecca of foodies globally. Yeah. And then you go to Muscat in 2008. Yeah. The markets have crashed in the UK, well, globally. But then it's quite a sleepy little sort of capital city. Yeah. How did you find that culture?
I sort of loved it because it was a slowdown. So, I spent a lot of time spearfishing and, the oceans are in that area are just incredible. The sea life is teeming. So fishing, spearfishing, diving, all that sort of stuff I was doing on a daily basis, so
Sounds like a dream, no?
the lifestyle was pretty good. It wasn't what I was used to.
Right.
But I wasn't going to do that forever. That was
No.
It was a blessing in disguise because I met my wife, and it was a happy ending.
And then the way that restaurant. So you were running that restaurant?
I was, yeah.
Okay. So would you say that was your first sort of time being a leader in a kitchen?
Yeah. Well, I had a co-head chef with me,
Right.
Josh Lewis, one of my best friends. So he's now doing quite well in Australia on his own right. He was one of the other Vue de Monde boys from back then. He was an absolute superstar as well. Just a really, really talented cook. So he was there also. So we had a couple of guys below us that were also sort of ex-Vue the restaurant in Melbourne.
Right.
Guys. So they made it all fun. But yeah, that was my first time sort of doing anything in sort of a real leadership position. Yeah.
And what type of guests were you cooking for? Because obviously Dubai, Singapore, quite an expat, city, lots of food, restaurants. The scene is quite vibrant.
Yeah.
How was it there?
It's interesting. We cooked for Prince Andrew. Actually, I don't know what he was doing there, but he would like.
We're not going to say what he was doing there,
but he would just come and he would like, why is Prince Andrew here? So that's I'm not suggesting that was connected to anything, but we cooked for him. Some other sort of celebrities would come through every now and then. It was it was an expensive hotel, so, but yeah, mostly like sort of it was my first time cooking for Arab people and learning how to integrate our cooking with Muslims and stuff like that, which is really eye-opening as well. So
quite challenging as well, I imagine.
Challenging, yeah. Well, everything at Vue de Monde had alcohol in it, so
right.
we had to adapt all the recipes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how long did you do that stint for?
That was about 12 months. Yeah, 12 months. So that got me to the end of 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after Oman,
yeah,
where was next?
After Oman, it was back to Australia with my newfound partner, who I met along the way. My wife is Russian, so we're like, what do we do? And she's like, let's go explore Australia a little bit. So that's what we did. And so I'd sort of taken a little bit of time to sort of, I'd been working so hard for a while. So I took a break for about 6 months and just went surfing. I was just
nice.
Love
it.
Yeah, just literally just driving around southwest Victoria and surfing. And, we got odd jobs. I worked in a pizzeria for a while and just like literally just had enough money to get by, and we were just having fun,
Yeah, but that's cool, no?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
So you traveled, you did the surfing.
Yeah.
And when did you start to get the bug again?
Oh, pretty quickly. But it was at that time where like my wife sort of changed my perspective on what I wanted for the future.
Right.
Before it was cooking, it was food, it was all about, can I become one of the greatest chefs in the world? Like literally that was what my mind was telling me. Like, do I want that? And I realized that I didn't really want that. I was like, I don't want that. And I knew I needed to find something that would sort of maybe take me down a new path.
And was that because of the purely the time and all of the sacrifices you had made previously?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was definitely the sacrifices. Like I found that Formula One kitchen environment addictive, and I do have like a personality where once I'm in something, I'm fully in.
Yes,
and I absolutely loved it. But I realized that one, it wasn't a very good economic decision, and the chances of me finding success on the world stage would be slim. So I sort of calculated my sort of options and was like, if I'm gonna have a family, live a long life, I don't think that's what is gonna make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to have, a stable income and set up my life for the long term. So I had a sort of like a long-term vision. And like Shannon had, I think at the time, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 restaurants or something in Australia. And I thought I could probably do something like that and replicate something like that, but without the heavy lifting. But I was sort of wrong about that as well. So, yeah.
So then after you had the conversations, you decided, okay, I'm still going to be in the industry, but I'm going to take a different path.
Yeah.
What galvanized everything then?
Yeah. Well, I love the industry, and I would never ever do anything that's not in it, because it's what I know. And as I said, like my economics background and my graphics and art background sort of meant that the food world was the world for me, because you can sort of create whatever you want, right? So that was the path, and I knew that I had to find something that was going to allow me to, develop a career. And the opportunity for Abu Dhabi came knocking on the door from Jones the Grocer. So Shannon was doing some menu consulting for them. And, again, he was like, okay, well, if you want to move to Abu Dhabi for a while, you can go and do that. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I've heard about Abu Dhabi and Dubai and its upcoming market, and thought that'd be quite interesting. And that was, an opportunity that sort of started me on that whole path of daily routine dining, which we can talk about later if you want, but that really opened my eyes up to, oh, wow, I could do something that's really going to have a purpose. So I took a job with Jones the Grocer as their executive chef in Abu Dhabi. I think I was only like 24 or something. I was like,
wow.
I had like I was too young for the role. I think it was like
that is young.
Yeah, it was really young. But I think because I had Shannon's endorsement, people were just like, oh yeah, he must be great. Let's just go with him because Shannon says he can do it, So he'd just sort of throw me in the deep end.
Huge trust as well.
I just have to figure it out. Yeah.
It's a lot of trust from the brand, also from Shannon's name.
Yeah.
Did you feel that pressure, or were you just like, no, I'm going to just crack on and smash it?
I don't know if I felt the pressure because of his name, but I was pretty confident. It's like going back to like the kitchen at Vue de Monde, like that was the hardest job I've ever done in my life, without question. And that built up a resilience that meant that anything else after that seemed fairly easy.
Right.
So, and I kept thinking that, but it was also a great confidence booster as well. So any like young chefs out there who are thinking, oh, like, am I behind in my career? Like my advice is like, no, like just get into the best kitchen you can, stay in there for as long as you can until you feel like you've mastered it. And then you're good to go, because you're a totally different person by the end of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Those Formula One kitchens, they do set you up for life. And also, no one's going to work you harder than those kitchens. And it's not just the physical aspect of it. It's the mental aspect to keep going constantly and just keep thriving at that area is tough.
Yeah, 100%.
So Jones the Grocer, how was that change for you going from Australia then into that kind of brand?
I loved it. I looked at a plate of avocado on toast the same way as I look at a degustation menu, like in terms of the quality and the execution of it, ingredient quality and method, and all that sort of training of the team and all that sort of thing. And I'd sort of do it the same way, and believe we had some really, really good food going out there, even though it was casual dining, cafe food. It was still top notch.
Yeah.
So I helped them sort of build up to I think about 7 venues. And I really tried to get involved in as much as I could as well. So I was doing kitchen management of the team, kitchen design for growth, which was my first, go at, laying out kitchens and all that sort of stuff, and working with contractors and third parties and all that sort of stuff. So really trying to meetings and scheduling and food costing, and which I'd never really done that before. So I had to sort of, teach myself food costing and, all these types of things that, I wouldn't have done since culinary school, but I had to teach myself on the fly a lot of these things. But as I said,
but also from a different culture perspective, because the Omanis, they work very different to how they work in the Emirates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. True.
So that must have been also not a culture shock, but a bit of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Totally.
So then you did that for how many years with Jones the Grocer?
3 years exactly.
Right.
Yeah. 3 years exactly.
And then when did you actually decide, okay, from all of my experiences, I'm going to go it alone? Because that's a brave thing to do and it's not even your home country.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I decided pretty early on at Jones the Grocer, like I reckon within the first year, that I was like, this is where I could do it and I'm going to do it. And that was, I must have been 25, because I opened Tom and Serge when I was 27. So that would make sense. So as because Abu Dhabi was mostly in Abu Dhabi then, and I'd moved to Dubai around that time when they opened in Dubai, and I just realized I was like, okay, this city's got it. It's got the diversity and, you know, the geography and all that sort of stuff makes sense. So yeah, I've got to find a way to do this now. So
then you formulated a plan.
Yeah.
And so then how did the rest come about?
Okay, so the idea was to basically bring what I thought Dubai did not have, which was essentially a casual dining venue that was not a franchise bought from overseas, that would predominantly do breakfast and lunch, that was inspired by my hometown, Melbourne. So focus on high quality coffee and great breakfast and lunch. Shut the doors at 4:00.
Nice.
It was simple as that. And
7 days a week?
7 days a week. And everyone I told the idea to was like, that's mental. What are you doing? That's not going to work. Do dinner. It's like, no, we're not doing dinner. It's like...
And everyone, are you talking about businessmen or are you talking about friends, family, colleagues?
Quite a mix actually, because like the concept was not done before, and you know, this whole breakfast culture in Dubai did not really exist. So, and obviously, like, you know, we're trying to raise money and all that sort of stuff. And you know, I had some money from, you know, I was good with my money when I was younger, and I, you know, saved money for a house, and you know, bought a really cheap house when I was young, and put most of my salary into that,
right,
mortgage payments and stuff like that. So when I sold that house, I actually had some cash, which was great. So that's another bit of advice for young people as well, to try and invest in something early.
Yeah.
But I had some base, which was good, which I knew was enough to sort of help me at least get my way into a business. So yeah, we basically, I met Serge, my ex-business partner at the time, and I was like, listen, I've got this idea to bring Australian cafe culture to Dubai. And, you know, I was like, listen, I'm great with food, and I'm, you know, great with whatever the customer sees, that's me. Whatever the customer doesn't see, that's you. And that's the way we'd sort of split up the way that the venue would run and operate. And yeah, we got the place open after a year and a half of getting it, you know, working on it, and, you know, talking to landlords around town who were just like, no, because they wouldn't give us a lease on anything. And remember, like, the supply in the real estate market was much less back then, so there wasn't much going around. And, you know, Emaar and MAF and, you know, all these big mall companies just would not listen to us and would not take a meeting because we were no one.
So where did you settle for in the end?
Oh, gee, it was, you know, what everyone else thought was the worst spot ever, which was Al Quoz, the industrial area. So, yeah.
So just for context, for people who don't know that space, Tom and Serge in Al Quoz,
Yeah.
it's essentially a warehouse space.
Yeah.
Double floored.
Yep.
So you've got the kitchen at the bottom with some dining.
Yeah.
And then you go upstairs and you've got the rest of the venue,
Yeah.
which is actually beautiful, I think. And also there's huge windows as you walk in, and that huge door.
Yeah.
It's quite iconic.
Yeah.
When did you, when whoever said to you, look, or the landlord, they said, look, I want to go ahead, what was in your mind then?
Well, I was confident, but I was very, very scared as well. So like, I remember signing the checks and just being petrified, and the checks for the lease, because you have to give out, you know, essentially 3 years of checks to take on a lease. They don't want my name, and like, you know, I'm the one putting my balls on the line here.
Yeah.
That was pretty scary. But that meant it was like go time. It was like, okay,
But a lot of belief.
Oh yeah, I knew it would work. Like, I think I was confident if it works in Melbourne, and Dubai is an upcoming cosmopolitan city with people from all over the world, it will work here as well. So I guess after that, I didn't really even have time to stop and think, is it going to work? I was just like, no, it's going to work.
So from the time of signing the checks, to opening, how long was that fit out stage?
Oh, it was quite a while. I think we were way behind, and we probably paid penalties because we were late. It was our first project. We didn't know how to deal with contractors, of course. I think it was over a year actually, and we probably had like 6 months grace period, and then we had to pay 6 months rent.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah, that was scary. Yeah.
So then, opening day.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that?
That was scary also because like nobody came really. It was like, maybe 20 people came in the door. Because like we were just around the corner from Ace Hardware. So I don't know if you know where Ace Hardware is. So that's a place where people go on the weekends, and surely they're going to drive past that and then come and see us, whatever. But they never really saw us at all, and we didn't have any marketing budget, and PR wasn't a thing to us. And so I'm pretty sure, and you like, don't quote me on this, but I reckon we were one of the first restaurants in the city that had an Instagram page. So I had an Instagram page set up. I had a Facebook page set up. And I remember doing this post was a picture of me and Serge saying something about like, hey Dubai, we're two guys about to open our dream restaurant here in Al Quoz. We're doing the best specialty coffee in town. We're doing banging scrambled eggs and avocado and toast, and get down, you're gonna love it. Best burgers, and I didn't say best of anything. I just said, listen, we're working really hard. Come down and check us out and say hi.
Right. And
I remember posting it and getting a lot of likes, and then a lot of likes, and then shares, and people sharing it. I think it got shared like 200 something times on 250 times on Facebook, which was enough.
Which is
just enough to get it out there. And then within the space of about 2 weeks, it just started building up. And I remember the first, like that second or third Saturday breakfast service, and I was cooking then. I'm in the kitchen, I'm on the pass, and just going, shit, we're getting busier. And then like not looking up, because you just focused on the pass and focused on the checks.
It's an open kitchen, right?
Yeah, fully open. And then at one point I looked up, and there was a crowd of people at the front door. And I was like, oh my God. There must have been like 30 or 40 people waiting in line.
My God.
And, oh man, I reckon that day we probably had to close the kitchen early because we weren't prepared for that amount of people that were coming. But sooner or later, we got used to doing between 600 to 800 covers every Saturday. Well, then it was Friday, Saturday. But then, so on the week, because the weekends were, Friday, Saturday.
So
back then.
From what time were you open?
8 till 4.
8 to 4.
Yeah.
600 to 800 covers.
Close at 4 o'clock on the dot. It's wild.
Sick. That's,
yeah. I was like, I just squeezed the menu right down, didn't make any changes, and said no to everybody who wanted to. Like, can I change my salmon to bacon? No. You can buy bacon, but you can't change it.
Yeah.
And we were just super strict on the rules.
Good.
That pissed people off.
Good.
But it also got people talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good marketing.
But also they're coming to your house for your food. It's
Exactly.
not like, oh, can I have? Yeah. So I think that's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah.
So then, almost overnight, Tom and Serge becomes this huge, iconic restaurant. And people call it a cafe. For me, it's not a cafe. The food is high end, really.
Yeah.
And as you said, even if it's an avocado toast, it's like technical avocado
Well,
toast.
it's the best avocados. The point is focusing on the ingredients, and we've always done that.
And the space is quite unique because you have, as I said, you have the upstairs space. It's really cool, open plan.
Yeah.
And then, you're focusing on the coffee, you're focusing on the food. I think you're one of the first restaurants, if I remember correctly, also in the UAE, to serve your own water, which back then was like a big thing.
Yeah, free water,
So it was really made a huge impact.
Yeah.
So then after which time did you think, okay, I'm onto something here, we might want to do something else creatively?
Yeah. Well, my whole thing was quality and keeping the ingredient quality high, and we couldn't get good sourdough, and we couldn't get coffee that we wanted, and we couldn't get it roasted the way that we wanted to. So I'd actually originally wanted to put a bakery and a coffee roastery upstairs at Tom and Serge, but ended up being luckily for us, there just wasn't enough space because we need to put seats up there. Essentially the idea was to create a new restaurant that would have the ability to bake our own sourdough in-house and then roast our own coffee. And that's what we did. So we created the Sum of Us, and the Sum of Us was our second venue. And we did that after about a year of success. Yeah.
But also but also it's not easy. Number one, sourdough is not an easy process to continuously churn it out at high volume, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, roasting coffee is also not an easy process. So how did yourself and Serge get into sort of finding the right talent to do that?
That was not easy. That wasn't easy. It's funny though. There was a like the community back then was really small. So like everyone sort of knew everyone in the F&B world in 2013, 2014. So there was Dave Sanderson was our baker and pastry chef. Unfortunately, he passed away. I think 2016 or 2015 or something like that, tragically. So we miss him very much. But he really was instrumental in helping us set up the bakery and the patisserie. And then we had a guy named Jamie Elfman, who was our head barista from day one, and he helped us set up the coffee roastery. So great people. And
so from that, then essentially the sum of us was getting all of the sourdough over to Tom and Serge, and then all of your coffee was going to that.
Yeah.
So then from the sum of us, what was the next step for you?
Yeah, we were pretty hot then. That was like, we were sort of, there wasn't much in terms of supply of the type of restaurant that we were creating. It was like, so all the venues was super busy, and finally we were getting like, traction from everybody. So everybody's, inquiring about, oh, Tom and Serge are really cool. Oh, some of us are really cool. Oh, we should put one of those in my new tower or this shopping mall or this hotel. And I was like, just knocking back like request after request for us to go and put these venues into
no alcohol at all as well.
No alcohol. Yeah, well, that was the idea. It was like, there's heaps of 5-star hotels and bars around the city, but there's not much of this. So let's focus on the stuff that's undersupplied
and super unique.
Yeah,
actually.
Of course.
Super unique.
Yeah. So
then what happened once you started to get approached by the big boys?
Yeah, well, MAF approached us and said, hey, we need Tom and Serge in a shopping mall. I said, no. So no way, you're not getting Tom and Serge in a shopping mall.
And why was that? Why did you not want to do it?
It would have totally been untrue to what the values and ethos of what Tom and Serge was, which was a gritty industrial, all-day dining cafe. That would have, it made me cringe even thinking about it. And I still haven't moved it. There is only one Tom and Serge. I'm going to keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no plan to replicate it.
Right.
Because it's just right.
Yes.
I got that one right. You know? So that felt good in terms of, having, notoriety from people around. And they said, what can you do then? I was like, well, I can do a new brand for you. Because my plan was always to not have a cookie cutter. It was always about, I want to build new things that serve a purpose for that piece of real estate and the people in the area. That was strictly, and I still do that today.
Okay.
So I said to them, listen, I don't think you need a Tom and Serge or some of us. I think you need something different that is built for the daily routine of people in a shopping mall. And what do they want? They want things that are light, quick, healthy, great price point, and accessible more than 3 to 4 times a week. So that's why Common Grounds was created for that purpose.
And how many of those are around now?
Now we have 7 Common Grounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So I should say 6. The 7th is about to open in Kite Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tom and Serge, iconic. That will stay as it is.
Yeah.
Some of us, is it just the one, or you've got a few more?
Some of us only one.
Okay.
Yeah. That was another one. I was like, I want that to be just the Some
and that's still churning out the beautiful breads, pastries, coffee. It's going strong.
24-hour operation.
Wow.
Coffee roastery and bakery.
And a serious location as well.
Yeah.
Sheikh Zayed Road.
Yeah.
Like World Trade Center.
Yeah.
It's like full on.
Yeah, it's busy there. Yeah.
So then, when you open the Common Grounds, especially in Mall of the Emirates, that was quite big because also to have your brand, I remember there was a huge buzz around it when you first opened, and it was kind of like a mini sort of. It was a cross between a Tom and Serge and Some of Us.
Yeah.
Again, beautiful coffee, great counters, not really great space.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's also directly opposite Starbucks.
Yeah.
But also,
helps.
you guys were, still are super busy.
Yeah.
What was the next step after that for you?
Next step after that was a little bit, when you get momentum for the first time, it's really challenging. And I don't regret anything, but I do think there are things that I could have done better at that time.
Like what?
Well, so it was an interesting time. Like we'd brought on 2 new amazing partners who really have been so instrumental to my business and my growth to this day. Without those guys, I could not have done what I've done now. So to anyone listening, I'd sort of, say whatever you do, get great partners. That is like the most important thing you could do in my view to start a business. But yeah, I'm digressing a bit, but the point is that we'd sort of taken on some venues that may have been too early or not the right real estate.
Okay.
And I learned my lesson from that big time. And that was around the time that Serge was leaving the business as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a transition of management.
Yeah.
And I had to sort of learn how to run the business by myself. With my 2 partners, of course, but obviously me as the managing director of the business, I had to figure out everything. So that was a massive learning curve.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, Tom, so you don't learn to become an MD overnight. There's no schooling or degree for this. So the fact that you went from your humble beginnings as a chef right up to an MD, that journey is very steep. So within from 2013 right through to when the business started to change, how were you managing things? Because you were no longer, or not as much in the kitchen, you were really more focusing on the business. How was that transition?
Yeah, really, really challenging. Like really challenging. And that was something I had to sort of, again, like learn on the fly. And you sort of, I think as long as you've got like an end goal, all the other stuff that happens before that is, and during, like you're like every day is just like, get over the next day, get over the next day. It's like, they're all just little challenges. And as long as you know where you're going, those little challenges, you can either teach yourself or figure out a way to get over them. And I've just been doing that ever since, I guess. So yeah, you just got to learn on the fly. And
so look, 9 years later, we're here and you have EATX.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 9 or 10 brands under you now.
Yep. I think it's 11.
11.
It's 11.
I do apologize. So, and that's a huge inventory.
Yeah.
You know, tell me all about EATX and what the whole ethos and the premise of what you do now is.
Yeah. Well, the company previously was called Born Roux, and then Serge had left the business, so it was like the roux from Australia and the bull from Spain, and that was the way that we'd sort of set it up. And I knew that that there was a new period of the company coming, and these amazing partners, and knew that there was so much opportunity in this city, and there still is so much opportunity in this city. It's so exciting what's happening in Dubai right now, and I knew that I just needed to just create a future that I believed Dubai needed for their F&B. And I believe that there are unlimited possibilities, which is what the X sort of stands for. And also I'm a massive Elon Musk fan. So like, the SpaceX
nice.
Thing was, so I was like, okay, well, let's just, it's not really
when he drops into Dubai, just have a chat with him.
I don't
listen,
think
Elon.
Mind.
Yeah.
So that was sort of where the name came from. And it sort of just represented a new beginning for me, and the company sort of maturing and developing and going to its next phase. And this next phase has been very challenging also, but fun.
So we were just before you came on, you were saying within the last 2 years, you've almost been looking after 10 sites or 10 projects.
Yeah. It was at one stage last year, I think we had 10 sites under construction at one time.
And how do you manage that? Is it? I mean, what I'm asking is obviously there's yourself and your partners at the head of the table, so to speak. Yeah. But then underneath you, you've got several different moving components to that. How does it work?
Yeah. Well, it's so I have a big team. My team is continually growing. I have some very strong leaders that have helped me get to where I am. Most importantly, like a financial advisor who is with me daily and helps me make decisions on the daily basis. My partners are, I'm in contact with them on a daily basis, making sure that we're making decisions, not just myself, but together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about me. It's about the team and about the collective.
Right.
Have a really strong operations team. Have a great operations director, John, and great executive chef, Willie. Great baker, Lucas. These guys are really instrumental in helping us strategically grow, because it's not all just about food and recipes and ingredients anymore. It's about, cash flow. It's about, design and, leasing and legal and all these things that can come up. HR, well, that's a huge one. It's like, our HR department is always growing, just because the people management is one of the things that I try and take pride in as much as we can. And that's also probably the most challenging, I should say. I think it's the hardest part of it, is
people
to just
management,
making sure that everyone gets the attention and the needs that they deserve. Everyone has a story, and everybody's here for different reasons. And business is really difficult. And I think last year, as I said, 10 sites under construction at one time. It was ambitious, but we came out of COVID because of the fact that there was, the real estate market had, dropped, and there were great deals out there. It was a time to pounce, So we got some amazing locations, great geography, great terms with landlords and stuff like that. So it was definitely the right time to do it. But with that comes so much complexity in terms of the management of the build. Because as I said, it's not just food and ingredients, it's finance, and it's third parties, and it's contractors, and it's legal, and it's all these things. So the challenge is, how do you do that, but also keep a focus on your people? It's really difficult. And then not hold on to, too much cost at one time, whether it be inventory or equipment or people, or whatever it might be, food, before you're totally ready to open. So the timing of opening all these restaurants and getting all of that organized is extremely difficult, but manageable.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talking about timing and sites.
Yeah.
You've just opened 2 really beautiful venues in the heart of the city, in JLT. So one is Splendor Fields, which overlooks the park of JLT, which is a really beautiful, how would you describe it? It's kind of cafe, relaxed, casual dining.
Yeah, it's the idea of it is a cafe and deli in a really green, beautiful, lush setting in the middle of this urban jungle. So it's like a little
oasis almost, right?
Yeah, it sort of is. It's like, that's what it's designed to be. It's like a little refuge from the hustle and bustle of the city.
And then just above that, then you've got Hawker Boy.
Yeah.
Which again, everyone in town is raving about.
Great. It's good to hear.
So tell us about how that concept came about, because it's very different to the rest of your concepts.
Yeah. Well, so we opened a Common Grounds in 2018 in Almas Tower in JLT. And as I was sort of driving to JLT a lot, I was seeing this big empty plot of land above or on the park in JLT, just on that main road there. I kept looking at it, I was thinking, geez, that's pretty cool. I wonder what's going there. And I spoke to the great people at DMCC, and they said, yeah, well, we had some plans to do something there, but whether it's this or that or whatever, we're not really 100% sure. And I was like, okay, well, let me put a concept together and a proposal, and let's build a building. So we built a building.
Because there's nothing there. There was nothing there.
There was nothing there. It was sand, yeah. So, I put the concept together for 3 restaurants that really was designed to feed the community. And everything in that building is designed that way. So the ground floor, there's a deli, there's a cafe, there's a kids' playground, there's big, beautiful grassy areas, and there's picnic tables and all these things that the community just needs.
So for families, that's the space.
It's a family spot. And then, the middle floor, Hawker Boy, I was like, right, let's just have a cracking Asian restaurant that was sort of inspired by my time in Singapore. I got together with the mysterious Hawker Boy, and we we did a concept and we built it and we opened it, and it's been great ever since. So, but a very different vibe to.
But super. So it's more adult. I would say, right?
It's a bit louder. It's a bit more rock and roll. Food's sweet, sour, salty, spicy, like everything you'd sort of want from a great sort of Pan Asian restaurant.
A lot of character to the restaurant itself as well.
Yeah.
Nice big open kitchen.
Yeah.
Those red lights.
Yeah,
it's quite striking.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like people are loving it. So I'm really I built that restaurant as well for something that I was like, I want to go to that restaurant. I believe something like that in the city does not exist. It's very casual, and like it's not like these other high-end restaurants that sort of serves similar cuisine, but this is like street food done in a restaurant vibe.
And then what's happening on the third?
Third floor is a restaurant called Frankie in Florence, and that is our pizzeria and bar, and that will open in October when the weather cools down. So that's a rooftop venue. So yeah.
And then the biggie, for me, and the biggie I think that everyone is talking about is the Guild. Yeah. Now the Guild is in this incredible building, ICD Brookfield, in the heart of DIFC. Yeah. What is it? What is the Guild? Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's. I thought we'd talk about this because I'm excited to talk about it because I haven't talked about it much, sort of deliberately, in the media, partly because I've been so busy, but also because I didn't want to sort of ruin the surprise or get it wrong, because I want to make sure that people really understand what we're trying to do here. I'm sure they will once I explain it, but basically the venue is a tribute to the bustling brasseries of Europe and New York. And that's about as simple as I could probably say it. Okay. But it's massive. How big is that space? It's just under 20,000 square feet. Wow. So it'll, pound for pound, it's like one of the biggest restaurants in the DIFC, I think. With the idea of really focus on the ingredients and feeding people in an experience like no other in the city. We've basically got 4 areas. So it's split between the nurseries, which is a cafe and a brasserie. We have the rock pool, which is literally a pool built in the restaurant. Nice. That is a seafood restaurant. And then we have something called the salon, which is our grand dining room, which is built sort of sitting slightly below a open kitchen that's sort of set on a stage. It has 3 open counters, or like island counters, that sit in front of a massive open fire grill that is one of the most unique cooking, one of the most unique kitchens in the country, I think. It's only fire, massive wood-fired oven in the middle of it as well. And the idea is that people sit around this kitchen like they're all part of it, and instead of having some corny like cabaret show or something, the chefs are the show. So it's very unique, but the idea is to make it a bustling, vibey place that has some of the best seafood and Wagyu and Kobe beef that's displayed in the world. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. How or where did the idea for it come from in the first place? Because how did you put the idea together at the same time you've got that space? So because it's quite a lot. I mean, that is a huge space. Yeah, it's massive. Yeah. The idea, okay, so the idea came about basically. I had a relationship with IC Brookfield years ago as they were building this tower, this huge office tower in the DIFC, right in the heart of DIFC. So they were interested in creating an all-day dining food hall experience in Dubai that was like nothing else in the world. And they approached me and said, we know that you are creative and are great at creating new things. Put a concept together. And I remember being away in Australia at the time, and I was like, okay, it's like, geez, if I'm going to put a concept together across like 20,000 square feet, that's going to take a few days. So I was on holiday with my wife and my parents. So I was like, listen, guys, I got to go for 3 days. Like, just leave me. So I basically just dropped everything and just sat in an office and created this concept. And I sent it to them in a big hurry. And no team around you? You had you were just on your own? I was actually sending stuff back and forth from my team in Dubai. I was there and we were Skyping, I think. Right. Zoom didn't exist then. So they were sort of helping me with like the presentation, and I would do like
the numbers, and I would send them images of what I wanted to do, and I wrote like menus and all that sort of stuff. And what I created was a food hall, and because that's what they wanted, and it was amazing. I was like, yeah, this is really good, and they loved it, and I got the lease. So they awarded me the lease, and there was some big stiff competition as well, trying to get that space.
Because it's prime real estate as well.
And I think the idea that the homegrown mentality, and what I had planned to do was bring a bunch of different restaurants or startups or chefs from around the city and put them in one place. And that was originally the concept. Except it was more sort of focused on the lunch and the daytime crowd.
Right.
And that was my plan. And it was sort of like, I was really confident with it. You know, the numbers stacked up, and I thought, yeah, this is going to work. And there's huge demand in that building. So it was great. And I started design on it after I was awarded the lease. And then COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
And they went, oh no, shit.
Yeah.
What, can I say that? Yeah, fine. What are we going to do? COVID hit. What if people don't come back to the office towers anymore and lunch is not a thing anymore? I was like, I've got to change the concept. Like, it doesn't work. So I pivoted, and I was like, well, okay, well, if lunch is not going to be a thing and dinner is a thing, because this is an office tower, so I've got to make sure that it's a destination for the dinner if there's no one there during the daytime. Flip the concept. So I was like, okay, go back into creative mode. What am I going to do? And I remember one of the most vivid sort of restaurant experiences in my life was a place called Peasant in New York. And Peasant is basically, it's a small restaurant, and it's built around, it's one of the places that Paul Bocuse used to go to every single time he'd go to New York.
Okay.
And he'd go there because it was literally a kitchen built out of bricks that was built by the chef, and they would literally be throwing pans of sardines and garlic and fresh herbs and chili into this wood-fired oven, and they'd be taken out and throwing it onto tables, and just really high quality rustic cooking, very much ingredient focused, but really centered around this big brick fireplace. And I was like, I want to build that kitchen one day in Dubai. So that one place set off the rest of the idea.
Okay.
So, and you'll see that when you walk in, because that kitchen that we've built it's the piece de resistance. It's the main attraction, with some other really cool attractions in there as well, but that's the main one and the most striking. So that led everything. And also one other one, which was Chiltern Firehouse in London. I love that venue because it's huge, and it's a hotel, of course, but the restaurant experiences are quite large, and there are multiple different areas and rooms. So I knew that whoever put that together had a very intelligent brain about how the customer's journey would be, and how a guest experience could evolve from early evening through till very late in the day, but also have breakfast and lunch and a business meeting, and sort of be a bit of a daily routine restaurant for the people in the area, but be a destination for everybody else. So that was the quest. Like, how do you build that?
How do you piece everything together?
So I called up David Archer, the architect, who literally flew out a few days later after the phone call. I was like, listen, I've got this huge space. I'm in a hurry here. I need to do something amazing, and it's got to be quick. So we flew out David, and we walked the space, and that guy's a genius. He really helped me put it together. And I had all these amazing ideas in my head, but I just did not know how to put them together. So after hours and hours of conversation and drawing, and we came up with what the Guild is today. So. And
why is it called the Guild?
The Guild, another COVID name, sort of just sitting there in my office at home. So I was just trying to figure out how do you find a name that brings all these amazing things together, whether it's we're artisans essentially, as chefs and restaurateurs and sommeliers or bakers or fishmongers, or all of these people that are involved in the process. And I was looking at what a collective of these kind of peoples could look like, and I looked up the Guild, and that's exactly what it said: a collection of artisans and craftsmen. So that's what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it settled within a couple of hours. Yeah.
And the place is not open yet. How are we looking for it? When can we expect to see this incredible place?
So I'm hoping to have it's between the nurseries. It's made up of the nurseries, the rock pool, the salon, and the Avery, which is a cocktail bar at the back. And the way I'm going to open it is in 3 acts. Act 1 is the nurseries, which is the cafe and brasserie. That will open late July.
Right.
And then I have Act 2, which is the rock pool and the salon, and that will open early September. And I'll have Act 3, which is the Avery, which will open early October.
And are we talking restaurant terms now? Are we talking soft opening or full kind of launch when you're doing these acts?
Yeah, so the nurseries will be sort of it'll be a full opening of that area. So we'll be on and ready to go in that area. Operating the venue as the customer will see it, for years to come. We're going to do the idea of doing a staggered opening is that it is a very large place and there's lots to explore. And we want to celebrate each area. Mm-hmm. So we want to give each area its own attention.
Nice.
And the menu's complex. So it's going to take some time for us to nail everything.
So once it's opened, it will be, I'm sure, one of the pinnacles or another icon to have, not just within Dubai, within the city. But it's quite full on. After all of this is done, Tom, how do you relax? What do you do to get away? Because you're very creative. So is for you a holiday where you sort of go and find different experiences, things like that? Is it that you go back home to Australia with your family? What do you do to chill?
To be honest, I try and spend as much time with my family as I can. That's my chill time, and try and stay away from my phone because my phone is dangerous when I'm with my kids.
The enemy.
It doesn't work that well. But like in my mind, I've worked really hard, for 10 years, more than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Ever. Like the responsibilities are huge. And I think, I really enjoy what I do. Like, I don't think I'll stop. Like, I don't see an end game. Like I don't have one. Like the end game is to just enjoy it and do what I love and do what I'm good at, So, I think next year, like I'll have time for a bit of R&R then, I've got an amazing team at the Guild, so I know that those guys, ex-Vudamon guys, actually my executive chef.
Oh, nice.
One of my ex-guys from best buddies from Vudamon, as well as the general manager, so Paul Gajewski and Chris Bothwell, who's the GM. So these guys are on the team, and we're sort of maybe bringing some of those old Vudamon days back, just without hopefully the pressure for the guys in the kitchen.
And business-wise, there are 2 things that I'm particularly interested in, because you obviously, regarding EATX, is the first question. You are super prominent brand within the UAE. Would you want to go abroad? Have you been approached to go anywhere else?
We have, a lot and often. I'm under, of course I know what's happening over in Saudi and other parts of the GCC, which I think are, on the verge of a boom. But, what is happening in Dubai right now is also pretty special. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of opportunity here. I really want to focus on the consolidation of the current team that we have and the restaurants that we have. We'll be, by the time the Guild opens, we'll be 750 staff.
Oh my Lord.
So the company's growing
that's
exponentially.
Big. That's huge.
It's 22 venues, so it's I love what we have here. But that said, the business is in great hands with great people running the venues, and I know that I will get itchy soon about finding something new to do after the Guild opens, for sure. I know myself too well. So I am excited. I'm really excited about the future. So it's not off the cards. Let's just say that.
Okay. The other particular question that I wanted for you is more the kind of chef and business, because you have a lot of chefs. I'm not just talking about Dubai, globally, let's say, who are very talented, super talented, but they have their own idea and they want the drive to do it, but they're too afraid or there's something holding them back. What advice would you give to those chefs?
there's nothing worse than procrastination. You will fail, but who cares? Like, just fix it and move on. Like, that's it. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
You will fail, but who cares?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
I just did a one of the first episodes for season 4 is about the ego.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. One of the biggest enemies we have as chefs is that, you know, whatever it is always the ego.
Yeah.
And the fear of failure is a huge one.
Yeah. Just got to look ahead. That's what I think.
Really big.
Yeah.
So now we've come to the quick fire round of the podcast. Now, I don't know if you've heard it before, but there's lots of different things specifically towards for you. So the first one, now you don't need to name names here, okay, just to make it very clear. But in your kitchen days, when you were, whether it's at Arzac, whether it's in Vue de Monde, wherever it was, we don't need to name the place. What was the funniest kitchen incident that happened to you or that you've ever seen?
Oh my God, funny. Wasn't much funny that happened at Vue de Monde. How quick. I remember Christmas Eve service, Shannon throwing truffles at us from one end of the kitchen to the other because someone put them in the freezer and they were ruined.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was that. Sorry, Shannon.
That's
sorry.
That's a bad move. That's a bad move.
Yeah.
Don't put truffles in the freezer.
I laugh about that quite a lot, but they were gone. Yeah, that was.
Hopefully they weren't white Alba truffles.
Maybe.
What was the meal that projected you or changed your life to the person that you are today?
Oh, good question. Oh my God, you've got me. There's too many to answer, but I know it's quickfire. I never forget the first time I had a dish that was a fairly generic Italian dish. It was like a veal scallopini dish that I had in this tiny little restaurant in my hometown Geelong, which is just outside of Melbourne, and it was the first time I'd ever tasted something that had been seasoned correctly. I was like, oh my God, food can taste like that. That was an amazing experience. That's memorable to me. That was the first time something went, whoa.
Wow.
That was a wow moment.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a 16-year-old Tom?
Oh. I'd say, whatever you do, don't stop. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Perfect. Well, Tom, listen, it has been an amazing conversation. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for the time to take from your extremely busy schedule to be here, because I know you have so many projects going on. There's been a huge array of things and tips to learn from you. And really, I want to say from all of us here at the Chef JKP Podcast, thank you so much. It's been amazing, and wish you all the very best in all of the rest 300 venues that you're going to open in the future. And again, really thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, James. I really enjoyed that. It was awesome. Great to do it. Thanks.